Hola, hola todos. Welcome to Entre Comillas. I am your host, Aylin Acosta, also known as Nessa. And today we are going to talk about LGBTQ representation in mariachi with our very special guest, Carlos Samaniego, who is the driving force behind Mariachi Arcoiris de Los Angeles, LA's first LGBTQ mariachi band. And I am so excited to have you here. You have absolutely no idea. I brought you in here because I really just wanted to hear about your journey and about what it took in founding LA's first LGBTQ mariachi band. And I guess we're just gonna go over your journey, the impact that Mariachi Arcoiris has had, you feel, in the community, and take it from there. Are you ready?
Yes, absolutely, of course.
Well, first and foremost, Carlos, feel free to start introducing yourself.
Absolutely. Well, my name is Carlos Samaniego. I'm the founder and the director of Mariachi Arcoiris de Los Angeles. And not to be nitpicky, but we are the world's first LGBTQ plus mariachi.
My bad. My bad. I'm sorry. Oh my gosh.
It's important to note that only because I feel that the fact that we're in Los Angeles, it's allowed me to start this group. I feel like we're in this amazing bubble here in LA.
100%.
And, there isn't even a group like this or of this nature in all of Mexico, right? And so, which is where this music is from. So it's important to note the fact that, yes, we are the first LGBTQ plus mariachi in Los Angeles, and also in the world. And that is why, we have even been invited to perform in Mexico on 2 occasions, which I find incredibly ironic and beautiful at the same time. I love it.
Can you tell me a little bit about why it's ironic for you and why you love it so much?
Yes, so 2 years in a row, last year, 2022, and then in 2021, we were invited to perform for their Pride event in Mexico City, which is the biggest in all of Mexico, right? And they call it La Marcha LGBT, which is for them a protest march, which then empties into El Zócalo, which is the main historic city center, where the presidential palace, etc. It's enormous space, and they've had different artists over the years perform, like Thalia and big artists, and the fact that they've invited us 2 years in a row to perform for this is very significant because this is Mexico City. Down the street from El Zócalo is Plaza Garibaldi, which is like the mariachi plaza, right? That's where everyone goes to hire mariachis on the spot. It's the home of Mariachi Vargas at Tecalitlan. It's the home of Mariachi America. Like the most important mariachis in the world reside in Mexico City. The artists that they accompany or that they record in Mexico City. It is the capital of the country. Yet there is no LGBTQ plus representation in the mariachi world, which is why they had to import.
They had to import you guys all the way from
Mariachi
LA.
Arcoiris into Mexico to perform for Pride 2 years in a row, and I love it. I eat it up.
I mean, how did that feel for you? Genuinely, experiencing that.
It was emotional.
Yeah.
It was emotional. It was a dream. It was a dream come true, honestly. And I played with several other mariachis before starting this group, and I never had the experience of performing in the historic Zócalo in Mexico City until now with Mariachi Arcoiris. And we were, on the main stage there in the city center. We were right before another artist, Flor Amargo. So it's quite significant, the fact that we are the representation of LGBTQ plus community in the mariachi world.
And that's saying something. That's saying a lot.
Oh.
I mean, for me, the only person who I associate with LGBTQ and mariachi was Juan Gabriel.
Mm-hmm.
And as we know, he was never really open about his sexuality himself. I think he only ever did like one interview, and he said lo que se mira no se, no se pregunta. No, lo que se ve no se pregunta. So like, I know, I can only imagine for you how significant that was,
Right. And I'm sorry to kind of go into what Juan Gabriel said. I love that he said that, because it's kind of like, it's none of your business how I identify.
Yeah.
I'm an artist. We're talking about the music that I have composed, which were, by the way, over 1,000 songs.
He's one of the great compositores mexicanos.
Yes,
he's
absolutely.
right up there with, I believe, Jose Alfredo Jimenez. Like,
in my opinion, he is above everybody else.
Yeah,
honestly.
He's amazing.
And not only that, but he was unapologetically him the whole time. He was authentic to himself the whole time. He was flamboyant. He was effeminate. He was a showman. He was an amazing singer, obviously composer, all of these things. He played the guitar, like all of these wonderful things. And he was never afraid to show who he was. And the audience just ate it up. I love it. It's so ironic that our very machista culture, that in some towns, in some pueblos, where they can beat a homosexual person, where they kill trans people. Then they hear a song from Juan Gabriel and they're right there crying along, singing Se me olvidó otra vez. What the hell?
Amor Eterno. It's like one of the classic songs of Mexico. And I think a lot of people don't know this, but he actually wrote it about his mom and about his turbulent relationship with his mother. And I think one of the factors that contributed to his turbulent relationship with his mother was his own sexuality. So, yeah, it's amazing to me to see people who are so machista. I wouldn't say all people in Mexico son machista, but it's a big part of the culture, is that machismo, So you saying this and me hearing you be so excited over the fact that you got to live out this dream.
Yes.
I love that.
Exactly for that reason, the fact that our culture is very machista, that is why I created Mariachi Arcoiris. Going back to your original question.
Yeah, going back to the original question.
So let's bring it back home.
Right.
So before creating Mariachi Arcoiris de Los Angeles, I had been playing with several professional mariachis here in Los Angeles, in New York, back in LA when I moved back. In the United States, Los Angeles is the mecca of mariachi. If people play mariachi in other parts of the country and they really want to get into the best groups, or they want to be in a more professional setting, they move to Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Whether they're from Texas, from Las Vegas, from Arizona, from wherever, they come here. And I've worked with a lot of some very, very great groups. Unfortunately, I had to endure a lot of homophobia, right? So when I came out of the closet while I was in college, and I was 18, 19 years old when I came out. And at that point, I was already performing professionally with mariachis. And the coworkers that I had, meaning the other mariachi musicians, most of them, not all of them, but most of them were from different parts of Mexico, not necessarily from a big city. They were great musicians, but they were very closed-minded. And so I had to endure a lot of this homophobia, the bullying, basically.
Yeah.
And that went on for years. And finally, so let me take one more step back.
Yeah.
In 2000, I was halfway through my college experience. I had recently come out of the closet. I wanted to be among other people that were like myself, because this was a new world for me, right? I just came out of the closet and I'm I was thirsty.
You're seeing things from a whole different perspective, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're living out this whole new, I guess, life.
Right. And really of acceptance, right? I wanted to be in groups of people, in an environment that was accepting and that was going to be welcoming. So I joined what at the time was an official college campus club. At the time, it was called GALA, Gay and Lesbian Alliance. I'm sure they've changed it since then. This was a long time ago. So
we won't age you. We won't say a word.
So, while being a part of this club and being on the committee of preparing for the college campus pride events, the original idea of Mariachi Arcoiris came about. So it was a week of pride events on campus at Cal State LA. And
I'm sorry to interrupt. You're a Cal State LA
I
alum?
am,
Oh my
yeah.
God, so am I. Okay, sorry.
We're Golden Eagles,
I
yes.
didn't mean to interrupt. Okay, keep going.
So the one of those events was going to be a mock wedding. And this mock wedding is in protest because back then same-sex marriage was illegal in the entire country. So this mock wedding was like, people pretending to get married, right? Volunteering in protest. So because Cal State LA is a very Latino heavy campus, this was an official campus club, so they had budget. And they knew that I played mariachi professionally, and they said, "Hey, Carlos, why don't you bring the mariachi that you play with for the wedding? Because like at any Mexican wedding, there would be a mariachi, so why not here? Why should this be any different?" I'm like, "You're right, absolutely." And then it was one of those things where you say things without thinking and you just blurt it out. And I said, "Wouldn't it be great if it was an all-gay mariachi?"
Oh my God.
And of course they all look at me and they're like, "Oh, can you do that?" I was like, "Oh no, I don't know." At that moment when they said, can you do that? I really didn't know if I knew that many people in the mariachi world who were out.
LGBT, yeah. And even so in our culture, I mean, people coming out, it's hard, so they, people who, they kind of stay in the closet, they don't really come out. So I can only imagine how difficult that was to try to find even just a few people, let alone a whole group, one person, let alone a whole group,
Right. So I did know some people. Luckily, some of those people that I knew, again, what I mentioned earlier, that they are not originally from Los Angeles. They're from other parts of the state, but they moved to LA to perform mariachi professionally among the best groups. And so I reached out to them because I knew for sure that they were openly gay or lesbian or LGBTQ+. And I said, I need to create this group for this one-time event, like just the one time. They're like, "Okay, I can call my friends back in Fresno. I'll call my friend in San Diego. I'll call my friend." And like all of a sudden,
everybody pulled out like their contact sheets, right? Oh my God.
And Mariachi Arcoiris de Los Angeles was created for that event, the one-time event. And I named it Mariachi Arcoiris, rainbow for the rainbow flag.
Exactly.
And de Los Angeles because it's Cal State LA.
Yeah.
And so that's why it's named that, actually. And so flyers were made.
Right.
Word got around about this one-time event, college campus event at that. It was in the quad area, right? Where at the time Confucius was the statue. And,
it's still there.
Okay.
It's still there.
He got moved.
Oh, he got moved?
Yeah. From when I was there. Okay.
Okay, now I know. All right, got you.
So, basically, we performed for this event, and everyone was an excellent musician, and I just said, I'm just gonna call out standard songs, like we've never rehearsed, right? Like this isn't like an official group, so just call out standard songs. Everyone knows all the songs, cool. So because word got around, and they had made flyers and whatever ahead of time, when we were done performing, the manager of this gay Latino vaquero nightclub in Hollywood, which is called Club Tempo, and it's still there to this day. The manager at the time came up to us and said, "Who's in charge here?" So they all pointed at me. I said, "Well, I guess I am." And he said, "Well, I want to offer you work at our club."
Oh my God.
And then we started to work at the club twice a week. And with some challenges, because obviously some people didn't live in LA. They just came to LA for the one-time event. But also my focus wasn't that at that moment, in that time of my life. I was a college student. I was studying classical violin.
Right.
That was my focus. Mariachi, yes, I performed it professionally, but honestly, I performed mariachi at the time.
As sort of like a hobby, a passion project? No,
not a hobby.
No.
As to make a living.
Oh,
that's how I was able to pay my tuition, to pay my bills. I mean, I performed like all of the rest of my coworkers in those mariachis.
Wow.
They do this for a living. It's not a hobby.
Right.
And so that was what it was for me. It wasn't like a career goal. It was, this is what I'm doing from work right now.
It's part of your lifestyle at the end of the day.
Right. And I was happy to do it because it's music, and I was a music major. But I knew that I didn't want to necessarily make that the final thing. Like it wasn't going to be my goal. So with all this in mind, after a few months, Mariachi Arcoiris Generation 1, I guess, G1, sort of just kind of evaporated. It just dissolved.
Right.
And that was it. So, but.
So you did. So wait. So you didn't do those 2 shows that they told you to go to?
No, we did.
Oh, you guys did do it.
Yeah, for several months.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they booked us twice a week. I think it was like Wednesday night and Sunday night or something like that. We were there for several months until finally, like, I couldn't.
You couldn't keep up with all of it.
Keep up with it.
Got
no.
you.
So I dissolved it just because I didn't want it to be my focus.
Right.
And that was that. I mean, it wasn't. At that time, I wasn't necessarily making like this protest, right, or creating it for all the reasons why I created it the second time. So, which I will get to in just a moment. But it was the seed that was planted, right? Because but now I had created it. So now, after it's been dissolved, I go back to working with these different mariachis. And I have some very good experiences. I learned a lot. I mean, these musicians are amazing from different parts of Mexico, from Jalisco, from Zacatecas, Michoacan, all over the place. But I still encountered a lot of the bullying and the homophobia. And every time I would encounter one of these negative experiences, I'd always think to myself,
wouldn't it have been great if I kept that band going?
No, it was one day I'm going to make Mariachi Arcoiris again. I'm going to make it again. And every time I'm like, oh, it's going to happen.
Like it just grew that kernel in your head.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh.
So finally, all these years later, 13 years later, honestly, I don't remember what the comment was or what it was, but it was one of these, homophobic comments. I was working at a restaurant with the mariachi in Downey, and that was it. I said, I'm over it. That was like the straw that broke the camel's back.
Right.
And so I said, I'm going to start Mariachi Arcoiris de Los Angeles again. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to do it. So then I went back to Club Tempo because it still exists, and different manager at that time now. I said, back in the day, I had an all-queer mariachi, and I want to start it up again. It's called Mariachi Arcoiris, blah, blah, blah. He said, all right, show me the pictures. Like, immediately, he wanted all this stuff.
Immediately he was interested, like,
yes,
bring it on.
Yes. I was like, okay. So I started. I didn't even have anyone yet.
You're like, this is just a thought, yes, like, of me trying to do. Okay, so exactly. It's like back to that step 1 when you originally created it, where you're like, I made the move, but now I got to get everybody in this again.
Mm-hmm.
Got you.
Yes, and so I did, and we started with a 5-piece group, also because that's like the budget that they gave me at the club there. And our first performance was Valentine's Day 2014. So that's our anniversary, Valentine's Day 2014. So which means that this coming Valentine's Day, it's going to be our 10-year anniversary.
Oh my God, congratulations.
Thank you. So it's, so now, again, because of all of these remarks and negative comments and bullying that have built up over the years and over the years and over the years, I needed to have a space, like personally, I needed to have a safe space for myself.
Right.
And in needing that, I thought to myself, I can't be the only one that needs this. There have to be other musicians like me who need this space too. And sure enough, that is the case, of course.
So how did you go about the process of finding these other musicians this second time around?
Well, at first, I contacted people that I knew. Some people, I would say that of all of the people that I contacted at first, there was really only like 2 people who said yes.
Right.
Everyone else was pretty happy where they were because they were working, in a steady group at a restaurant, or they had steady work, whatever. And remember, mariachi, for those of us who play it, is a way of life. It's not just a way of life. It is it's how we make our life, our
living.
Our living, yes. It's our livelihood. I can't.
A livelihood, yeah.
Thank you. So, I understand if they were to be like, you're a brand new mariachi. Like, you don't have any work. Like, I can't leave this steady group that I'm with because I have to pay my rent. I have to pay my bills. Of course, I understood that. I never held it against anybody when they said they couldn't join the group at the beginning.
Right.
So I started with 5, and believe me, almost every year there are like at least 3 times in a year that I want to throw in the towel because I'm like,
you're like over it.
It's stressful.
I mean, managing a lot of people is stressful.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I can relate. I'm a producer.
Absolutely.
You know? Okay.
Yeah. At the end of the day, when you are a leader of a group, our job ends up being personality control.
Right.
And so that's what it is with the mariachi. And of course, you know, we're LGBTQ+, we're all divas and so whatever.
Oh my gosh.
So the group, after, let's see, I think it was after the first year, maybe about a year and 2 months into it, I really, really was about to throw in the towel.
Right.
I really was. Because there was some bad stuff that went down in the group, and the group kind of like broke apart. And it was the weirdest thing. Just as I was about to, like, honestly just give it all up, and those of us who stuck together, we said, okay, let's just fulfill the contracts that we have, and then we'll put it to rest. And for the musicians that I'm missing, because there are people who left, I'll just hire people to come and help out, and we'll fulfill those contracts. Okay, that's it. Literally, like, the next day, I get a call from the California Endowment, which is a huge nonprofit organization in the state of California, right? And they deal with a lot of different social, economic issues. And they were interested in having us be a part of a tour of California called #Schools Not Prisons.
Oh my God.
And this tour, depending on the city, was going to involve other artists as well. And I couldn't say no to that. And while I discussed it with the other musicians, and I said, you know, we're being given this opportunity to tour the state of California with this organization and with this campaign. What do you guys think? They're like, let's do it. I'm like, okay. So basically it started up again as it was gonna be put down to rest.
Wait, so does that mean that you got some of the old people that left to come back? No.
No.
So this is still the same group that you already that remained.
Yes.
Got you.
Plus new people now.
Oh, okay.
Yes, and those new people ended up being like pretty steady members of the group for a long time. So that tour of California with the California Endowment ended up being sort of like how I didn't put it to rest.
Right.
I
It was
kept
the
going.
saving grace that kept the engine running.
Mm-hmm.
To this day, I'm assuming.
Yeah. And I mean, the group now has grown a lot. We're an 11-piece band at the moment. Now I get people who contact me contact the mariachi, but it's me, via social media, that want to audition for the group. There have been some very empowering and strong messages that we have gotten. There have been people from different parts of Latin America, not just Mexico, mainly Mexico, but also other parts of Latin America.
People who are passionate about mariachi.
No, who they themselves are mariachi musicians.
Oh.
And they're gay, or they're part of the LGBTQ plus community, and they'll say to me, like, I can't believe a group like this exists. I wish you guys were here. I'd totally be a part of it. One very specific one that I remember, he said this, and then he also said, thanks to you guys, I found the courage to come out of the closet to my family. And he plays mariachi, and I remember it's in the state of Puebla. I don't remember the town. So it's very important, the work that we do, even though we don't know it, because it's like indirectly affecting people. We got another message at another time from this one girl, trans girl in Texas, a high school student. And, one of the musicians in the group is Natalia Melendez. She's the first transgender woman in the history of mariachi. And she said how Natalia is her role model.
Yeah, I think she's one of your lead vocalists, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's very, it's amazing that having this group, it turns out that we end up being role models. And it's important to also step up to the plate because, for example, Natalia and I didn't have those role models, right? The role models that we had were different. For both she and I, the role models for us were the women mariachi.
Right, like Lola Beltran or
No. I'm talking about not women singers, like artists. I'm talking about the women who work in mariachi, like violinist, instrumentalist.
Oh, got you.
I'm talking about the people who we work with, and they were like, there was this one specific woman. Her name was, she passed away unfortunately, Laura Sobrino. She was our violin teacher for both of us. I mean, and we didn't know each other at the time. We were both teens, and so Laura Sobrino was the first woman to play with Mariachi Sol de Mexico as one of the musicians in Mariachi Sol de Mexico. And then another woman that I worked with in my first professional mariachi, her name is Rebecca Gonzalez, and she was the first woman to be an active member with Mariachi Los Camperos in the 70s. And then another friend of mine, Monica Treviño, who's went back to live in Arizona, she was also part of Mariachi Los Camperos. And these are all people that I worked with in a professional setting, but these people were the people who really inspired me because they went against all this machismo.
Right.
Because to this day, a lot of mariachi musicians will say, when in their mind, they're thinking they're giving a compliment
but in reality,
women.
it's like a microaggression.
Yes, to like women, right? Like if there's somebody, and actually I had this conversation with one of my formal musicians, who she and I are still very good friends. Her name is Mayra Martinez. She plays vihuela, and she would get compliments, quote unquote, that she's like a badass vihuela player. She plays like a man, and
you know what though? I feel like that's something about our culture. It's all like, if you do something really good, their automatic compliment is to compare you in the masculine sense, right? Like, you're as good as a man.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah. Si toca el violín fuerte como hombre, lo toca como hombre.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, she's just good.
Yeah, she's just good.
That's it.
It's just, don't attach a gender to it. She's just good.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So these three women that I mentioned, Laura Sobrino, Monica Treviño, and Rebecca Gonzalez, to me were my role models because they really fought hard to be respected and to gain the positions that they did in those established prestigious mariachis. So, but in terms of LGBTQ plus people, no, not so much. So now we're it, right? Mariachi Arcoiris, now we are the role models for another generation. And in fact, when I talk about this, because this isn't the first time I talk about this in an interview or whatever the case may be, the younger people in my group don't necessarily understand what I'm talking about because they haven't had to live through the homophobia that I had to live through. So although they don't understand it necessarily, they really are reaping the benefits of
everything that's been fought for them.
This product, right? And to me, it is really amazing, and I get emotional sometimes to think that if they stay in this group, I mean, I can guarantee it, at least in my group. I can't in other groups, although now things have changed. They will never experience that. That's amazing.
That you created that safe space.
Yeah.
Another thing that I do want to ask you though is, what do you think? How does music, like particularly mariachi, like play a role? Do you think in challenging the stereotypes you feel?
Well, that's kind of what our specialty is in Mariachi Arcoiris.
Right.
So, a lot of the music and the repertoire in mariachi is geared towards either the love or the disdain for a woman, right? And if you go back to la época de cine de oro de México, right? The golden age of Mexican cinema, from, you know, what, the 40s and the 50s, and Pedro Infante and all of those people.
Right.
All of those, or not all, but most of those storylines is, you know, where the charro is serenading at the foot of the balcony to the love
Right.
interest, right?
Yeah.
And it's a very romantic type of thing. And that romantic image has been around for centuries, right? I mean, Romeo and Juliet and whatever, all of these people. So it's nothing new, but it is something that's very much ingrained into our idea of
What romance looks like
yes,
in our culture.
and in this specific genre of music.
Right.
They bring a mariachi, they didn't bring a banda. You know?
Right.
They didn't bring a conjunto jarocho.
Right. Right.
they brought a mariachi. And so that is the idea. And so with Mariachi Arcoiris, we fight against that because my love interest is going to be another man, right? And so we want to make sure that we break away from these machista ideas, and that we empower ourselves with who we are authentically.
Right.
So if I sing a song, I'm going to sing it directly to a guy, whether it be a song about love or falling out of love or betrayal or whatever. And same goes for any of the cis females in my group, because they identify as gay as well, lesbian, and so they're going to be singing to other women. So a great example of this is the song Ella, written by Jose Alfredo Jimenez that you mentioned earlier. Ella, that's the name of the song, right? That's the title. Well, it talks about the love of a woman and how the person singing isn't getting the love back, right? Like, and that's why he's has to go and drink and get drunk, because he wants to forget about how he's not being loved or it's not being reciprocated.
Yeah.
Right. So that's Ella. Well, in my group, one thing about having studied classical music and having that be my forte for such a long time is that I'm like, I don't know if brainwashed is the word, but I'm trained to really try to respect the integrity of the composer's meaning for their pieces, right?
And I was even going to ask you, I'm like, do you ever switch up the lyrics or anything regarding the songs?
So for Ella, I'm not going to change the song to El, because that's going to be too drastic of a change.
Right.
So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to have one of the girls or one of the women sing it in my group.
Gotcha.
And therefore, automatically, the song has a totally different twist and meaning. And everything still makes sense. Nothing's being changed.
I love that.
Yeah, nothing's being changed in the lyrics. But
Right.
now it's a woman singing about not getting the love back of this other woman.
Yeah.
We don't know the reasons. I mean, you can just imagine, because it's a woman, there's two women. Maybe the other woman doesn't even know that this one loves her. Maybe she does and she's disgusted because she's homophobic.
Right.
Or maybe her family doesn't allow her because, you know, of the traditions of Mexico, and she has to stay closeted. The thing goes on and on, right?
Right.
So that song all of a sudden has a lot more meaning
Right.
now that a woman is singing it. So now, we, with that said, we try to be authentic to ourselves with the music that we sing. Will I change a lyric here or there? Absolutely, I will. At the beginning, when I started Mariachi Arcoiris for the second time, G2, Generation 2,
Generation 2.
I was really afraid to do that because
Yeah.
I didn't want to be like singled out or criticized for doing that, right? But as time has gone on, I don't care.
Yeah. And I feel like there's also more of a freedom now, right? Like, I feel like nowadays, I feel like there's kind of leeway there for people to be more expressive.
Well, you know what? There always has been. It's about doing the research, and I had to do the research too.
Right.
Lots of people did it before, or way back when. Lola Beltran did it, Lucha Villa did it, Juan Gabriel did it, and dude, if they can do it, hell, we can do it too.
Yeah.
And so, but we make sure that when we do that, it's tasteful, it makes sense musically, rhythmically, all of these things, so that it's still gonna sound good. So a really good example of this was actually this year. Early this year, we got hired to play at a same-sex wedding. These two beautiful women, amazing. They love Mexican art and culture, and their wedding was like, you know, as if like Frida Kahlo threw up on it. And so, and they hired Mariachi Arcoiris, and they hired an LGBTQ folklorico group from San Jose, California.
Oh my God.
And they came down to perform for this wedding, right? And it was here local for us in LA. Well, we accompanied this folklorico group with the songs that they were gonna dance. One of the songs was El Gavilán, and I hadn't played El Gavilán in a long time, like since I was, you know, in those other mariachis back in the day. And I was like, oh yeah, El Gavilán, yeah, cool. It's a son jalisciense. As we're rehearsing it, I was like, oh my God, the lyrics are so bad. They're like totally machista, these lyrics.
Yeah.
And it talks about que el gavilán está buscando la pollita en sus 15 primaveras. And okay, perhaps that when the song was written, it made sense for the society at the time. Back in the day, a quinceañera was ready for marriage. That was the whole point of a quinceañera.
Right.
Presentarla a la sociedad, right?
Right.
2023,
No.
No, we're not gonna be marrying a 15-year-old.
For me, the one that gets me is the Solté la Rienda. I always get, but for me, every time I hear that song, I love that song, but then it reminds me, I'm like, women are being talked about as if they're horses.
Exactly. All the time. In all these songs, they're horses, they're mules.
They're livestock.
Yeah.
They're livestock. Like, it is what it is.
And the thing is that, you know, the origins of mariachi in Jalisco, and it's the debate whether it's Jalisco or Nayarit or whatever, it's that part.
Right.
They all kind of connect there. Though the origins was these people who played the music, they were not educated people.
Yeah, no.
They were people from the countryside, and they sang and wrote music about their life.
Yeah.
Their life was about el ganado,
Yeah.
y las vacas, y el caballo, y, you know, that's what they wrote, you know, y que el chivo, y el borrego, y el becerro. And so that there's like, you know, a song called El Aguacero, actually we play it. And it talks about how, please make it rain. We need the rain for our crops. You know, and so those songs are typical and of the origins of mariachi. So it's in a way, and this is the thing about Mariachi Arcoiris, for me,
Right.
I have to, it's like this balancing act. I'm trying to preserve a tradition. We inherited this music, right, from my parents, my grandparents. We're here in the United States.
Yeah.
We're preserving this beautiful music. We're doing a much better job at preserving it than they are in Mexico, let me tell you. And I'll tell you that in just a moment why.
I need to know this.
Yeah.
Keep going. I'm sorry.
But at the same time, Mariachi Arcoiris, we're also breaking away from tradition. So we're preserving and breaking away at the same time. And it's very challenging because what parts do we decide to preserve and what parts do we decide to break away? Obviously, we're breaking away from the machismo, right? And that's basically it. That's what we're breaking away from.
But already that's huge.
Mm-hmm.
That's absolutely huge. And like, I don't even want you to diminish it because within like our culture, like, I mean, machismo is a thing. It's I feel like, I don't know, maybe it's me just trying to be optimistic. I feel like it's dying down a little bit.
It is.
But like, you know, it's still prevalent.
The reason why it's dying down, and not to toot my own horn, but it's because of organizations or groups or people like Mariachi Arcoiris.
100%, yeah.
And even though there are people who are against us, and every time there's an article that comes out and they read it, especially if it's printed in Latin America, and there's all of these negative comments that are said about us, it doesn't matter. We need to keep pushing. We need to keep being visual about who we are, how we represent ourselves, because I always say, with visualization comes normalization. And that goes back to what you were saying, like, well, now there seems to be a little less machismo. Well, yes, because we keep pushing this. You know, it's natural to love someone of the same sex. It's natural. It's not unnatural.
Right.
And that's why nowadays, if you see a gay couple holding hands on the street, it's a lot less of a shock than it was 20 years ago or 30 years ago. And so because we keep doing it, right? I'm like, screw it. I love my boyfriend. I'm going to hold his hand in the street. And you keep doing it, you keep doing it, you keep doing it, and more people keep doing it. And that's what helps to create normalization. That's what Mariachi Arcoiris is doing.
I mean, one of the things I remember, I had this class in college, and the teacher brought up this song by, of all people, that I didn't expect, but I was so happy. It was Los Tigres del Norte, that they came out with the song Ella es Diferente, right? And she pointed out, and I'm just like, first of all, I was already amazed, like, that we're learning this type of, this type of things in a college class. It's not, you know, at least then, I feel like cultural things, they were talked about, but it's still geared very white. But the fact that they were talking about like Latin culture already, that was something for me. But the fact that she brought up the fact that Los Tigres del Norte makes a song like this, it just got me thinking. I'm like, wow. In some ways, things have, at least, like, this is huge. I don't even think people in this classroom know how huge this is.
Well, Tigres del Norte, actually, most of the songs, if not all of the songs that they wrote, were based on real people, like that they knew. And so, yeah, that's great. I teach a class at Cal State Northridge. I teach the mariachi class from the music department there. So I get to really talk about all of these things with my students. I mean, I'm focusing, of course, on teaching the music and having them. I'm
so jealous of your students right now. I'm letting you know now.
That has been an amazing experience for me to teach there. That is not something that I ever had wanted to do.
Yeah.
And every time I think about having to drive to Northridge, I still don't want to do it. But when I'm there, I really enjoy it. The students are amazing. I have been told that for some of them, I'm their favorite professor. I'm like, how can that be? Oh, I don't believe you. Or that's their favorite class. I'm like, dude, you're an opera major. Like, this is mariachi, whatever.
Yeah.
So it's an amazing, it's a gift, honestly. Right. I'm very fortunate. I'm very, very lucky to do everything that I do. Honestly, I do. We're getting close.
We are getting close to time. I guess the only, the last question that I want to give you is, what are your goals in the future with Mariachi Arcoiris? Like, what do you hope will keep coming out of this amazing thing that you created?
I want this to continue to always be a safe space for mariachi musicians who identify somewhere within the LGBTQ plus family. Luckily, once I created the group, that goal was met.
Right.
So now everything else is just icing on the cake. So we're about to release our second album. Actually, next year, because it's our 10-year anniversary, I'd like to record another one.
So it's going to come out in February, I'm assuming.
Which one? This one?
This one coming up, right?
No, this one coming up is going to come out, like, hopefully this month, actually.
Oh, wow. Okay.
The one we're going to record next year will come out sometime next year, but during our 10 years.
Got you.
Yeah. Hopefully. I shouldn't be saying this. My husband's looking at me like, what the
We're hopeful. We're hopeful.
Because my husband's like, pay off the debt from the first one first. So, yeah, because I produce everything myself,
right.
So I have to pay for everything. So that is, I would love to win a Grammy.
I hope you win a Grammy too.
I would love to perform in more of the bigger theaters in the world. I'd love to perform at the Hollywood Bowl, Dorothy Chandler. We just made our Lincoln Center debut in New York City in June. We just got back this past weekend from performing at the Denver Opera House.
Oh my God.
And we've been given a lot of really great opportunities, and I think they're just going to be coming more and more, honestly. The group is getting more popular. We're now in a history book. And
you are?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, World Music, and we're in I forget what the name of the book is. I have it somewhere in my phone. But it is a world music book, and we're in a chapter that talks about the history of mariachi in the United States Southwest.
Oh my God.
Which actually, I'll say really briefly, goes back to what we were talking about earlier, how I said that in the United States, we do a better job of preserving mariachi music than in Mexico. So, and it's funny because we just got 2 awards this year.
What awards did you guys get? Sorry, I'm
cry.
trying not to go over time, but we're over time.
I know. It's okay. The first award we got was in June. Actually, it was the same night that we left for New York. We went to the award ceremony, and it's called the Purple Lily Award.
Oh my
and it is given by the Latino Alliance Equality. Am I saying that right? Or Latino Equality Alliance, that's what it is.
Right.
And they are a nonprofit organization that's kind of like a branch of the LA LGBT Center, and they target the Latino community in the LGBTQ. And they have 4 honorees every year, and Mariachi Arcoiris was one of them this year. And it's because of the work that we do and the message that we give, and for being positive role models in the LGBTQ community. When I went up to accept the award, I was like, it was awful. Like, I should have written it down something, because I was usually like, I'm really, like, as you can see, I'm really good at answering questions or talking
Oh yeah,
about
you
the
are.
group.
I didn't even really have to talk. I was like, keep going.
Yeah.
Keep going.
So I don't need cues. I'm good. But the emotion got to me so much that I was like,
You were left speechless.
I was crying, and my husband was crying even, and the whole mariachi was there, and their significant others as well. And it was really, really amazing. While we were at that reception, I got notification from an email that we were going to get an award in Reynosa, Tamaulipas, Mexico. Also, because of how we represent Mexican music and culture in the United States, while at the same time representing the LGBT community. It was amazing.
That's huge.
So we went to Tamaulipas to perform for this festival and to accept the award. But what I was saying is that in Mexico, mariachi music, folk music, and what normally is folk music, is passed down through generations. It's not necessarily something that is studied, or that is analyzed, or that is researched. Whereas here in the United States, because again, we inherited this music, we go out of our way to preserve it. We research. We do what's necessary so that we can do a good job of passing it down to the next generation, as any college teacher would, for example.
Right.
And so it's become more academic here, where in Mexico, it's just starting to be more academic, where now they're starting to put it, mariachi, into certain curriculum. Here, that's how I started. I started mariachi. I mean, yes, my grandfather and my father were musicians, but actually playing in mariachi, it was in middle school.
Yeah.
LA Unified has a bunch of mariachis in their program in the different schools. And not only LA Unified, a bunch of different school districts in California, Arizona, Nevada, Oregon, Washington, Texas. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So, in fact, not only is mariachi in the schools and is taught and it's preserved and it's polished, but now it's also a degree in certain universities.
I did not know that.
Yes.
That is
And so
amazing.
it is amazing. And so none of this is happening in Mexico, right?
No.
Because over there, again, it's something that's inherited. It's a folk music. It's passed by generations. It's not something that people would think to go and major at a university.
Right.
And so, but like I said, it is starting. They have started to put a little bit more of mariachi education. I hope it gets better in Mexico, because it can't be that in the United States, we do a better job of preserving what we do in Mexico. And I was having this conversation actually at that Tamaulipas Music Festival with a very prominent mariachi musician from Mexico City. He's part of Mariachi America, and he's an amazing singer and violinist. And he was floored with how well Mariachi Arcoiris plays. I love that, by the way. And not only for my own ego, but
You're like, thanks, thank you.
Yeah, no, but there's something I always tell my musicians. I tell them, we must play well always, because
There's
we
more
are the
pressure
first,
too.
Yes, people will find any excuse to talk smack, and if they have their own personal reasons for talking smack, sure, I'm not gonna change that. But I don't want them to talk smack about how we play. On the contrary, I want how we play to shut them up. So this man, his name is Margarito, and I forgot his last name. Oh my God, Alvarado, I think. Amazing musician. I had already met him years and years ago. He was like, "You guys are amazing." He's like, "I can't believe," and he was talking about this, how he had just taught at some workshops in Texas. He's like, the music, the mariachi music, and the musicianship and the professionalism that they have in the United States kicks the ass of the mariachis in Mexico, and it's he's like, it's amazing how it is. And so anyway, that's
I think I think also mainly it's just because ultimately growing up here, Latino, Mexican, we have that pressure also of preserving our culture, right? Because it's right next door to us. It's right next door to us, and I feel like at the same time, it's one of those things where we don't want to lose it. We don't want to lose who we are as people, this identity, right? And I know that this is also a big reason why I've decided to do this podcast, is because I love my culture and I always want to feel closer to it and do it justice, because I think our culture is beautiful, right? Latino culture in general is beautiful. And I love that. I love that you mentioned that.
But the thing is also, because you and I, like, we grew up here, right? We don't necessarily identify with like white American culture.
Yeah. No somos de aquí ni de allá.
I've always said that, you know,
right.
And I'm sure we all have, you know,
Yeah.
and because, you know, I don't know about you, but when I grew up going to Mexico, like on summer breaks, I was made fun of how my Spanish was spoken.
Oh yeah, 100%. I was. What would they call me? They call me pocho or something like that. Like, and I'd feel so embarrassed. I didn't even want to speak. I'm like, I don't want to say the wrong thing.
Right.
Like, I'd point to things. It was so sad.
Yeah. I mean, and it's exactly that, right? So we're in this weird like middle ground. Like, well, am I Mexican? Am I American? Am I both? Am I neither?
Yeah.
And so, us trying to hold on to it and preserve it is our way of trying to feel accepted within amongst ourselves, I think.
Amongst ourselves, yeah.
And so, and it does separate us from, like, you know, Anglo-America, for example. And it does make us different also from people who are from Mexico, because we're speaking English now, and we were taught and educated here in the States. So there is that difference. I mean, I personally made it a point to try to perfect my Spanish, also because I wanted to work as an interpreter.
Yeah.
But that's
and also you perform
story.
In Mexico. You know what I mean? It's that pressure too
so,
there.
Let me tell you that when I was being bullied with all those mariachis back in the day, I needed to have less excuses for them to make fun of me. So I was already perfecting my Spanish back then, because I'm like, you're not gonna make fun of the way I speak Spanish.
Yep.
Nope, you're not gonna make fun of the way how I play my violin. I'm gonna be badass on the violin. Nope, I'm gonna be the best singer. I'm gonna be the best at everything, so that you have nothing to make fun of me about.
Yeah.
And if you make fun of me, it's because I'm gay, or because I made.
And it's something in you, your own insecurity.
Exactly. So that's how that happened.
I mean, we went a little longer than expected, but I love the fact that we did. Like, so I'm so grateful to you, Carlos, for coming in, for telling us your story, giving us your insights, your perspectives. And honestly, I wish nothing but good things to come. And I know you're gonna get those like awards. I know you're gonna get Grammys. I don't know what, everything that you want. I want you to have it.
Thank you.
And ultimately, again, I'm so grateful for you to come down here. I'm grateful to your husband for being here and showing you the emotional support that you deserve.
Thank you.
And ultimately, yeah, I mean, where can we follow you at? Tell us if you have any handles. What would you like to give people to support you guys?
Absolutely, yeah. All social media at Mariachi Arcoiris. So at MariachiArcoiris. I know it's long. We have our website, mariachiarcoiris.com. Yeah, and so those are the best ways, I believe. Yeah, and look out for our second album, which is about to come out. It's called Así Soy, and it's an original song of ours that I sing in the album. And so, in fact, I quote Juan Gabriel in that song.
Oh, okay. Is it the same quote that we talked about today?
Mm-hmm.
I love that quote.
Yeah.
Well, anyways, guys, thank you guys so much for being part of today's show with us on Entre Comillas. Follow us on our own social media handles, and I hope to see you en el próximo capítulo.
Gracias.